Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Swyftx Squawk. I'm Pav, lead market analyst here at Swyftx, and we've got new all-time highs. Bitcoin obviously showing some strength now. Good way to tick over the start of a new quarter, second half of the year. We have been talking about some of this geopolitical unrest coming to an ease, hopefully providing some confidence and some room for the market to move, and Bitcoin hasn't disappointed. But today I wanted to focus solely on this idea of a new wave of demand that's coming for the crypto markets that maybe a lot of people aren't quite aware of or understand the impacts. Now, particularly this all comes back to Michael Saylor and his Bitcoin strategy. MicroStrategy, obviously being the former name of the current company strategy, has completely overhauled its role as being, for the last couple of years, a proxy for a way of people to be able to gain Bitcoin exposure prior to the ETFs being live, which obviously now people have access to. But that hasn't stopped MicroStrategy actually in the last year outperforming Bitcoin. Currently, we see strategy stock up 219% for the year in terms of returns. But what we're starting to see, more broadly speaking, is a general shift of other publicly listed companies starting to put crypto more on their balance sheets. Now, we're at the point now where we're even starting to see the top 10 entities that are publicly traded out there, which may be no surprise, being US companies. And we tie this into some of the more broader macro themes that we're seeing with stablecoin regulation in the US and even the industry becoming potentially regulated in the near future, or at least some sort of update coming. It really sets a stage for, are we going to see this demand really proliferate? And we're already starting to see that, to be honest. SharpLink Gaming is one example of that, a stock which has started to basically raise capital to purchase Ethereum. And their particular strategy is to basically stake that Ethereum and sell the yield off as a way to generate additional revenue for the business. So just last week alone, they're reporting 100 ETH was generated from their staking activity, of which was obtained through a fundraiser where they raised about $64 million. And I think that equates to about 205,000 Ethereum staked. So that equates in Aussie dollars about 399K, let's call it 400K, last week generated just from Ethereum staking rewards alone. And SharpLink, they're not alone. There are other pundits out there that are seeing this as potentially the next play when we're looking at obviously what MicroStrategy's done for Bitcoin. Tom Lee, very famous name on Wall Street, most recently well known for his research and insights into the stock market reversal in 2023 and 2024. He's now been brought on as the board of directors for Bitmine, a small-time Bitcoin mining operation, which is now looking to pivot and basically apply the same sort of methodology that Michael Saylor did, but for Ethereum. So creating the MicroStrategy of Ethereum, you could call it. So they're coming out with an announcement for a $250 million private placement to basically help fund a lot of the buying for the Ethereum that they'll be using. But again, this really just goes to show you that there are some people out there, or some investors and some strategists that are looking at, having seen so many companies come and go for Bitcoin, and most recently, their eyes are now turning to Ethereum. And it also is doing quite well for the share prices. Bitmine in particular, seeing tremendous growth over the last month as this new strategy being deployed and bringing Tom Lee on. But we also turn to Ethereum ETF flows, which have been very underwhelming for the majority of time. A lot of people may have lost interest in these products, but we're actually seeing new all-time highs in terms of net flows and assets under management, particularly for the BlackRock product, which is the premier product on the street at the moment. So while the likes of Tom Lee and Bitmine and the likes of SharpLink Gaming, while they're all aware of how to go about and generate the yield themselves through on-chain staking, there is this overarching idea of if the current ETFs, which are just spot ETFs, when they do become staking enabled, which the filings have been put in place, and basically we're waiting next steps on what that will look like in terms of when do they go live. It really sets a scene of now corporate America, and honestly the globe, now has access to instruments, being the ETFs, which can do basically the staking natively for you within the product, obviously for a fee, but it really removes this barrier for entry or accessibility, this knowledge gap, as a lot of treasuries and corporates out there may not want to basically go out and set up a node and set up staking themselves, right? So it sets a scene of, if we do see demand for this yield aspect on Ethereum, we are seeing renewed interest in spot Ethereum as a baseline, which we can see through the BlackRock ETF. What doors open all of a sudden for Ethereum and the broader crypto ecosystem as we see staking products come to the ETF landscape as well. I think that's a very important trend to be on the lookout for in the near to mid future. But that's it from me here today. I hope you found that insightful. We'll be back again next week to talk more crypto. Thanks.